And we're rolling.
I'm really stoked to be here. Chelsea, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is fun. This is going to be the first ever episode of one of these where we have somebody who's not, one of us.
Yeah, not Geoff or JJ. Yeah, it's sort of a relief to have a new job. So we have Chelsea, who is well, I'll let you tell the story. Who are you? Where do you come from? Why are you here?
I originally come from the East Coast of the United States. I come from a working class family with a carpenter dad who does a lot of volunteering. I think that's why I keep falling in with Ethereans, even though I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, as I really like commonses from how I was raised. And a very sweet and loving mother, who I wish I could have given a more feminine daughter. She kind of had a house full of dudes. But she is sweet and kind. I came out to Vancouver about, it's approaching a decade ago. And for me, that's where the story of me really getting involved in Bitcoin and decentralization came about. I am a lifelong school nerd. School just kind of works for me. I'm a really fast reader and I love books. And so I just have continued to pursue specific degrees for fun. One of those brought me out here, and then I stuck around after falling in with a group of decentralists here, I guess. Vancouver had a scammy stock market in the 90s. It was only no crypto people ever told me this here, only my immigration lawyer, who is a skeptic on crypto. He's like, oh, you don't know about the Vancouver Stock Exchange? Because there was so much fraud here, no fintech businesses or, no legitimate regulatory ones can grow. And that's actually protected the community. So that there's a lot more of an art focus, a decentralized partying focus very strongly in Vancouver. And these, the education's commons that we've long had here and that I wandered into during a Blank Banshee show. And there were just Bitcoin miners set up. I think this was December 2014. I just scribbled down a bunch of notes, just what even are these things? And circled around to become really involved with that space, which was called Decentral. But then Anthony, D'Orio or D'Onofrio, the guy who owns Decentral in Toronto, sued us, which we found, or threatened to sue us, which we found hilarious. And we're an anarchic hackerspace, so we'll give you all the assets and we'll take all the vowels out of the name. So it became Decontrol. And yeah, in the present, I have just finished up a library science degree here at UBC in Vancouver, which has been really rewarding. Yeah, I felt like some of the principles and things that I wanted to bring to Bitcoin, things I feel are really lacking in UX, UI and stuff, I wanted to go study. And I really got what I wanted out of that program. And now I'm dropping a full-length rap opera, which involves a space librarian character, which is somewhat in homage to the School of Information at UBC. And this space librarian, after landing on Earth, falls down the seedy rabbit hole of the cryptocurrency industry. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that's kind of, I think, the present. I have a lot of jobs, and I shitpost a lot on Twitter.
This is going to be a good conversation because, so Geoff and I, as long as we've been doing this for about a year now, we haven't really talked too much about the crypto in our lives. However, we kind of came to hosting a podcast together after I had spent a couple of years hosting a podcast all about crypto. Mm-hmm. So this is a nice way to bridge the gap. And I think that our common denominator besides crypto is the music and sound design world. Mm-hmm. And Geoff is a writer. Yeah.
I was just watching, before this, I was watching in-depth tutorials on the universal audio interface and preamp that I'm working with right now. So
yes, I use an Apollo 8. Yes.
Dope.
Very familiar with the whole system.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, welcome. Man, this is music and decentralization. Do you identify as a musician, as a rapper? How do you How do you see yourself?
That's a very
in terms of music. In terms of
Yeah.
music, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good and nuanced question that I don't know that I'd asked myself before. Of the offered options, I'd say a rapper. I don't think I quite have the chutzpah yet to be like full on, like to have that in my identity. So even maybe primordial to that, I would say a poet. I was a child poet from the age of like 6. I was really into the like meter of Shakespearean sonnets and stuff. Way nerded out on poetry, and so I feel like in my teens I discovered rap truly is the pinnacle of the poetic art form. And had a classic like little rebellion, like fight with my dad for a couple years. He's like, I miss you doing your poetry. And I'm like, listen to my rap, Dad. Rap is poetry, too. And then he finally did listen. Yeah. He's like, oh, you're correct.
and rap, we're like, that's defined as, like, rhythmic poetry, which is music. So if it's got a rhythm and it's poetry, then why not call it rap?
Yeah, yeah. I would say, I guess, within a self-declared space, there are some things like I would, I know of artists who would call themselves spoken word, and it could be interpreted in rap. But yeah, I guess anyone who wants to call themselves a rapper should not be dissuaded from doing so.
Wow. What is rap? Yeah, it's an interesting thing to even try to describe.
The author David Foster Wallace, who wrote that big old book Infinite Jest, he's one of my favorite fiction and essay writers. His master's thesis was called at a Boston University with this other dude, Mark, was called Signifying Rappers. And it was on the rappers of that time in the early 90s and the radio stations around there and pulling it in a little bit of a critical theory direction. It's really good.
Huh. Well, I know he also did some master's or something in mathematics and trying to explain infinity.
I mean, he was a childhood tennis genius.
Yeah. I'm curious why you think your mind gravitated at such a young age to poetry, Shakespeare. Like, it seems like your mind is so hungry to like latch on to things. I'm fascinated by what goes on in there. Like, you were a 6-year-old and you were obsessed with Shakespeare. What was it that made you look to words and sounds?
I think I actually, at that age, I liked the orderliness of it. I only recently, I'm going to be 34 in a couple weeks, and I only recently started to reflect that it is not usual that I was a pretty serious and intense child. Like, my parents were a bit worried because, like, if I had assignments or whatever, I would do them over and over until there were no mistakes, sort of thing. Like, really intense. And, like, my favorite part of Halloween was organizing and cataloging my candy. I have a picture of me with, like, stacks of the different type and a ledger. So, pretty odd. It's made me a workhorse my whole life, but it's been interesting in my 30s to be, like, learn what I didn't know as a child, which is how to chill. Like, relax, be in a bath and, like, not think or something. But I think it was, for me, the Shakespearean sonnets, especially. I think Shakespeare was, like, foisted upon me in a formal context, and I liked the plays and stuff, but what I liked about the sonnets was that kind of rigorous meter, and that there was a code for it. Like AAB, AAC, stuff like that.
Wow.
I always tried. I could never fall in love with writing poetry or writing lyrics. I've been making music like almost all my life. Like you, I wanted to study everything and every aspect of it. My degree is in music science and technology.
Cool.
But when it came to writing lyrics, and I feel like Geoff and I have talked a lot about this like, why could I never ever pick it up? Why could I never get super interested in it? One of the first things that Geoff and I disagreed over was whether song lyrics were meant to be read or not, like read off a piece of paper. Because he said, I forget exactly where it came from, but I said I think most singers or most vocalists, most lyricists would say that the lyrics are meant to be heard in music, not read. And Geoff, you disagreed with me.
Well, as a reader, I'm always fascinated to read the lyrics and like read them in the usual silence of my reading voice, or reading the lyrics of a heavy metal song while listening to classical and thinking about the meaning of it, right? It's, like the words have to be able to, I think, like translate contexts. I think that makes it interesting.
I've started to pick it up much more since we had that discussion, because like it's a different thing. It's completely different when you actually read lyrics that were possibly written down on a piece of paper or typed or however they were created, as opposed to being sung to you. It's a different experience, and it was, who knows how those lyrics were created. Some of the original songs ever written by like was it Schoenberg or Schubert or Schoenberg? I forget who kind of canonized the song. Would write music to lyrics, not lyrics to music, as so often happens in pop music. And actually, so how is rap music in this context? Is music written to lyrics, or lyrics written to music?
First I want to add that, Geoff, I guess I'm in the same camp as you on like lyrics being able to be read separately, and I didn't realize that wasn't like a mainstream camp of thought. That's very interesting to me. But again, the poetry background, like I may be biased in that case. For me, I find I think that most rappers I know, like, even if they're not rapping over the finalized beat for something, you want to find something. I used to use all of MF Doom's Special Herbs and Spices pretty consistently. Yeah, like yeah.
You use the same beat to write different raps.
No. Special,
that would be kind of cool.
No, Special Herbs and Spices was the collection of all of MF Doom's beats as loops.
I know what it is. I just that thought came to me that like, you could get away with a lot of lyrics if you just use the same thing. Possibly. I don't know. Maybe not.
However, you would get I feel like that would get you sluggish very fast. Because one of the things is like the consistent switches in tempos and stuff. Like I feel like in an instrumental or band-based album, you're expecting a build and a gradual movement between things. And with rap, it's like you can, like the next track can be just like completely different in vibe and way faster BPM and stuff like that. And even, I have recently reclaimed one beat from Special Herbs that is probably my favorite beat from any Doom song, and I had written three separate, the song I've now written over a version of it that's pitch shifted, etc. enough to hopefully beat all the algorithms. Like we did some human ear stuff to it that my producer suspects will like not get auto flagged. And again, it's not, we're not like stealing anything here. It's a loop. I specifically kept it simple in a loop. I had to go back in and write a song about outro song about how terrible all the stuff with Elon Musk lately has been on the album. A song called Fusk Musk. And so I did that over the most beautiful MF Doom beat I know of, which I wrote 2 previous songs over. So that's a little bit like what you were saying. I probably won't write any more over it after this, though, because I did notice, like, I started to get confused, too, about, like, stanzas from past songs as I was running back through it.
I've used the same title for different songs. Like, I'd come up with a title for a song and then write the lyrics and then be like, the title doesn't work for it anymore, so I'd throw it out. And then I'd end up using the title for another song. And then that title would just become a generator of songs. I actually, on one album that I put out, I just used the same title for 3 songs. It's just really confusing. Probably not a good idea, especially in the age of Spotify.
Yeah.
Well, Geoff, have you ever written to? Do you write lyrics to music often or at all? Because you're constantly writing, and I know that you're writing to music. But are you intentionally writing to music?
Am I intentionally writing to music? Do you
Well, yeah.
mean?
Do you ever sit down there with a beat and try to record some, or try to write,
Oh, and try to write songs?
Yeah, or do you write a song intending for it to be a song? Because I know that you've always got music playing in your ears and you're always
Yeah,
writing.
I
So
have
that's a
music
different thing.
playing quite a lot. Yeah, I don't really write songs. I mean, I think, my writing process is I sit down and I just like write almost everything that comes to mind, and I'll kind of like go on an adventure of, reading stuff, whether on Twitter or in my messages or in books. Like I kind of just like go on like essentially like day-long hikes through my reading voice, and I've sort of gotten to the point where writing and reading, it's almost like I'm very acquainted with both voices, and so I can like switch between them pretty effortlessly. I really just write, and then only later, like if I wanted to make a song, I would say, okay, let's go back through the mountain of writing I've done in the last 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 2 years, and like go find some things that like look and sound like they could be song bits, and then essentially just like take a scoop out of that and like smash it on the studio surface and like start like zooming in and adding stuff to it. Almost using it like a clay.
I hadn't thought of this before, JJ, before kind of listening to Geoff describe this, but I guess the funniest lines I've probably ever thought of, like random standalone shit and the beginnings of songs and stuff, always come randomly and always come like, oh shit, I better write that down. Like rhyming ass-faced proof of jerk with hash-based proof of work. That was a very proud moment. I'm like, I have to write this down. I'm gonna lose it forever.
I mean, the chaos is kind of an important part of the process. I mean, like when I used, in many collaborations, we would often, if we didn't have lyrics for a song, we would just basically turn on the microphone, put on the headphones, and then just basically sing phonetically whatever came to mind, even if it was complete nonsense or just garbage, like it just phonetic nothing, like no words, or just like ooh, blah, like whatever. And then we'd sit down there and then listen to it and be like, I think what I was trying to say in my head was,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And matching it up with words, and then realizing these are from the Bible, and or something like that. We'd have a lot of fun with that. But that's how our old singer would do it. Yeah.
I mean, that's almost like the perfect creative process, is like just do something and don't try to do anything, and then like just like do that, and then stop and then say, okay, now we're going to analyze this for meaning and try to figure out where this came from. That is so like both parts of the brain. You have to be completely unhinged for a duration of time, and then stop, switch tasks, say, okay, let's look at that mess that we like blacked out and created without thinking about it, and see, well, what is that?
I had a music professor actually who, when in procrastination mode, I went to him and I said, I don't know how to get started on this. And he said, Geoff, I want you to create the worst possible music you can possibly make. and then come back to me when that's finished. Basically, is my way to get started, was because then I've at least started, and then I've at least written something. And I know what is the worst thing that I could write. And it could end up being what we end up using in the end anyway. That's how it works for me. I mean, I'm a composer. I write music for TV commercials. Basically, that's my job. And I'll spend like days working on something that I think is perfect. And then like half an hour before it's due, I'll turn around and be like, let me just doodle something on the keyboard. And then that ends up being what they use and runs for 10 years as an ad campaign. And I'm like, well, I wish I was skilled enough to know that I didn't have to waste all that time writing this other garbage. That it's actually the chaos that, it's not even chaos. It's, what is it? It's, I don't know what you call that. What do you call, it's like, there's something divine there, I guess. Being in divine order is being able to write something instantaneously.
You're just grabbing it from the air.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, that could be the skill, is you go in sort of knowing that the thing you put 99% of time into is not going to be the thing. but you sort of have to act like it is going to be. And then at the last minute, again, you discover, here it is again. Throw that out. It's this little simple thing here. This is it. That I would actually call the skill, is like knowing how to like do labor that you know you're going to throw away. I mean, I do that a lot. And I mean, it even sometimes happens. I mean, it could happen on a podcast. You know, I mean, I remember when I was more of a photographer, someone told me that if you're shooting portraits with someone, say you've got like a 3-hour session with them, the first 2 hours, you can almost guarantee throw it all away. Even 2.5 hours, because it's all about getting them comfortable and getting them to a place where they stop, where they lose self-consciousness. Because you know that the best photographs of people is when it's like, there's no way you could be trying to be photographed. You were being completely yourself, which of course, another thing David Foster Wallace says is the great artists, they're just completely themselves. And if you're completely yourself, you feel it through your nerve endings, and that the other people who see it will too, because we are all the same. We do want to relate. When we look at a piece of art or listen to a song, we want to be able to say, that's me. Because that's the essential experience of art, is that's me.
So Chelsea, how often are you the essential version of you? How easy is it to turn that on? Or are you one of those people that's always kind of halfway there? Or maybe you're always there. I don't know. Is it easy for you to lose consciousness?
I'd say I'd phase in and out. I'd say to be that way, I'd say I'm mostly that way when I'm engaging with other people. And in order to do that, as I presume I might be an introvert despite being really loud. So I just have to like turn off and be silent and read for long periods of time. Like when I'm by myself, I'm very like homebound. Sometimes I'll pop in again to shitpost on Twitter or something like that. But largely I'm just like recharging. But when I am, I mean, I think the thing that drove me to run conferences and events and shit like that in the past is I come from a very loud people in the New York region. And like when I came out here to Western Canada, I was just like, oh, these poor decentralists, like they're standing around without drinks in their glasses because no one's given them permission to go fill their glasses. Someone needs to do this at events. Like,
that's true.
Like, here, everyone, have food. Now go sit down because we're starting.
We come from a party world, and in that world, they don't really know how to party. They certainly didn't know how to make content for a long time. Wow.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, it's interesting to see the art and technology, disruptive technology sectors coming together so much more cohesively recently. Like, there's, of course, always been overlap, but this whole, like the uprising of NFTs and stuff like that, I have seen so many of my artist friends reach out, and it's not the same deal at all as when, like, 2017 it was like, what coins should I buy? Person I haven't seen since high school. Instead, it's like creators who have been looking for platforms that will work and being like, oh, what can you point me towards some stuff I can read so I can make an NFT?
I actually got interested in crypto in the first place because it was colorful and because it was full of characters and the content was bad, basically. I mean, that was kind of what I showed up for. Was when I went to school, like, so I graduated from college right after the .com bubble burst, and I knew a lot of people at that time who were going into finance and going to study finance, and I hated all of them. I could despised what they were interested in because I was never really interested in chasing money for the sake of money. I have a slightly new respect for that over the years, but because of that, when I learned about crypto and I learned about Bitcoin, I was like, oh, finally something related to money that isn't just about money. There's memes, there's art, there's weird shit, and it made me totally interested in it. And I don't know if over the last few years, and particularly this year, if it's gotten better and more interesting, or if it has gotten a little more watered down. I can't tell. But we've definitely held on to some of some of our favorite memes. And then the NFT art thing is kind of it's there's two sides to it. It's great to see people actually giving attention to art, and it's also kind of hard to see people giving attention to art just because they can flip it for more money. It's kind of a sad thing for me. But do you have you been minting NFTs of your own stuff at all, or how has that been in your life?
I don't really touch anything but Bitcoin personally, but I help a lot of people who do. And particularly the awesome artist who did all our crazy art for DogeCon Vancouver 2018, Astrokin, Lord of the Galaxy, I believe, is her full given name.
I remember that. I remember that conference.
Oh God, it was so fun! It was the best.
Jackson
time.
Palmer was there, right?
Jackson Palmer told us this is my proudest moment from DogeCon. Jackson Palmer told me on Sunday, he took me aside because we made it 4 days. Everyone told me not to do 4 days, and I was like, "Fuck you! It's good. I have a theme for each day. It's going to be perfect." And he took me aside on day 4, and he was like, "You know, you guys have really made us enjoy this again and like get the fun in this coin." He obviously, I'm sure he doesn't feel that way now, but we made him feel that way for one weekend. That's so dope.
No, I'm actually hanging out with him on Sunday, and the last time I became friends with Jackson through the podcast that I did years ago, and the last time I was at his apartment, he wanted to share this Dogecoin beer that he was so excited about that he said that he got at that conference. So he was like,
I didn't even know there was Dogecoin beer.
Yeah, he was like, Geoff, you got to check this out. It's Dogecoin beer, he says in his Australian accent.
That's adorable.
Yep, and he shared his Dogecoin beer. He had such a great time at that conference.
Yeah, we had fun having him, dude. For the live team scavenger hunt with puzzles and stuff across the city, we didn't test this out at first. Like it was like it was planned, but we didn't have teams practice it. It was decentralized insofar as they obviously had to be at different locations at different times. So like we had people out as runners moving the clues and stuff so they could each do fair clues. They were neck and neck despite all of that. The teams, I think the local team beat Jackson's team by like something ridiculous it was less than 30 seconds because we were at the hackerspace managing it all from wire, like secure chat or whatever. They were checking in with that, and they checked in with their last answers less than 30 seconds apart from each other. It was nuts. It's super cool.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool! Well, I can't wait to let him know that I've met you also.
Let him
organizers.
Know that the weird girl, same last name, Vancouver, says what up, and definitely I know he's left crypto, and I have, as a fierce and staunch voluntarist, I have a couple of times recently like shouted down people who are trying to tag him back in. It's like, no, you're not a voluntarist if you're like forcing people to be in crypto because they did something cool long ago.
Yeah, he so the first time he ever came on Keyword Crypto, my podcast, he basically, it was when we had like 4 listeners, brand new podcast, and that nobody had ever heard of us. And he came on, he was like, I'm excited to be here because I can talk as much shit as I want. And you don't have any listeners. So nobody's going to hound me. And basically he just kind of ripped the entire space apart and how it's just become a big casino and stock market 2.0 and all that. But,
well, he had that slam dunk recently, too.
Oh,
he knows he
so
has
good.
the clout to pull that off of, like,
I'm
doing this in 1 minute. Like a secret agent. So
I know. Did you see that, Geoff? Did you see what happened? I can describe it, but with Elon Musk tweeting about Dogecoin and, you know.
Well, didn't he talk about it on SNL as well?
I mean, he talked about it on SNL, yeah.
I can't believe I'm hearing that the founder of Dogecoin is left crypto. I can't believe I just heard that.
So the founder of Dogecoin left crypto about maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago. And not only did he leave crypto, but he left Twitter entirely too. Mm-hmm. But he didn't want to just leave Twitter and let somebody else take his handle and like possibly scam people.
Sure.
So he wrote a Python script that would block and unblock everybody who follows him and all of his followers so that he could keep the handle but have no followers and follow nobody.
So
Wow.
fucking epic.
So really kind of genius. This is one of the co-creators of Dogecoin. And, you know, with recently Elon Musk talking about Dogecoin on SNL and tweeting about it and just being a dumb asshole, basically.
Yep.
Jackson Palmer, out of the blue, comes onto Twitter and says, "Hey, y'all, just a reminder that Elon Musk is a self-indulgent, what did he say? He said he's a self-indulgent scammer, piece of crap, and always has been."
Wow.
And then the next tweet is, "I'm deleting this tweet in 5 minutes, just so you know. Go ahead and screenshot it if you want." Basically, it was just this killer pop in, perfect execution, takedown, and then disappear into the darkness again.
And I appreciated it in particular because, like, at least the most well-known of the, like active Dogecoin devs, Billy, who is the best, like, I dare not criticize him, however, I've been kind of weirded out by how he's not worried by Elon's intentions. Like, I feel like we recently, with the Bitcoin Mining Council thing, saw that it's just an energy play. I've been waiting for what is Elon's play, and it's that he wants to like be the renewable energy king or whatever, and potentially control public cryptocurrency in the process.
And it almost seems like he just wants social status or something. I don't quite get it. And that could be part of his plan.
And he wiped up my favorite artist of all time, and I feel so cucked by that. Just like for all the Elon boys, like Grimes is just like, oh, Elon's baby mama, and it's like she's like 1,000 times more brilliant than him, and she should be the alpha in this relationship, and he should learn from her creativity.
Whoa.
To like, you know, to collaborate, not stomp on things.
So Geoff, Jackson Palmer got disillusioned with the crypto space because, well, a lot of people will say, oh, it's because he sold all of his Dogecoin, which he did early on so that it would be a conflict of interest, and basically he didn't believe that somebody who created the project should be the one who gets the riches from it. He's very much a socialist, so probably the only socialist other than maybe me in crypto, or so it seems. And he saw what it was becoming, and then he became actively against it, outspoken in the space, which, you know, it's just really sad to have lost him because we need critics of Bitcoin and especially crypto if it's going to do anything good.
Let me double click on something you said, that you think you're the only socialist in crypto. I am going to reverse that and say it's actually a gateway drug to at least a socialist imagination.
I think you're right. Yes. There's a lot more. That link that you double clicked is much deeper, and we can go surf through it if you want. But
everyone I talk to in Twitter DMs and in texts and in real life who is involved in crypto seems lonely. Every single message I get from them seems lonely, and that they're hungry for some sort of older, either like tribal or familial, some way to be proud, right?
Well, that's why I created a podcast, and that's why Chelsea is creating a rap opera, right? Because we're lonely.
There's a lot of burned out, rich people whose lives, I don't know, they sort of like played out their chess moves, and now they're where they are, and it's like, is this it? Is this it? And I feel like that's like the blinking cursor, which makes writing so interesting.
Well, also, when you're talking especially ideology within the political and economic space, this is one of the areas where you can draw a line between like Bitcoin communities and crypto communities. Because I would say that crypto, especially the Ethereum space, is really, I would say there are lots of people that I know who at least walk the line of aligning themselves with socialists. I don't like hate socialism. I just hate centralization. Like I don't hate socialism conceptually as much as most Bitcoiners would. But Bitcoin itself really aligns with these anarcho-capitalist and libertarian threads that came through in like it was like the gold bugs meeting the early cypherpunks, and they're like, finally we can have a future where we all have citadels. It's like, that's why I don't understand why I didn't see that meme and that selfishness coming. Like, I was like, what about banking the unbanked? We talked about that, y'all. Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I was like thinking, wow, this is a currency that is owned by the users and it's distributed. I mean, that's pretty shared technology and shared, that works on the socialistic level for me. But yeah, you're right. It's like, wait a minute. So we it goes back to, we are just benefiting the 1%. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're just like, yeah.
One of the most OG people in the Vancouver Bitcoin scene, like from back before there was anything but Bitcoin, really phrased it this bull run recently. Like, it kind of broke my heart when he said this. I've been reusing it a lot. We made a bunch of assholes rich. Like, by sticking to our principles early on. And like, for us, like, we were using Bitcoin as currency. We were excited when merchants accepted it and stuff like that. And like, all of the dudes who came in already rich and with that hoarding mindset, they just sat on their coins and they got super rich, and then they pick on us for giving the coins value. It's so strange.
Yeah, and people like Jackson Leave. I don't know if you ever were into Bitcoin Uncensored with Chris DeRose, but he's another like content creator who is so prolific in the space, and now he is gone too. He's just realized,
damn.
We made a bunch of assholes rich, and now it's kind of turning into something I don't want to be a part of anymore. And,
see, I'm just like LARPing battles against those assholes. I'm sticking around, and I'm like the loudest leftist Bitcoiner. So we're in this together. Because although I wouldn't call myself a socialist, I did think recently, I'm like, of the Bitcoiners that self-identify as maximalists, I am probably the loudest, leftist, and queerest. Like, there are other leftist and queer Bitcoiners, I'm sure, but they're not loud about it. So I try to stay loud. And especially as a former sex worker, like, there was a reason. Like, I was like, Bitcoin, censorship-resistant money, makes sense for one group of people in North America.
For sure.
And we're not having that conversation most of the time.
And when I say I'm a socialist in crypto, I mean, I am the only socialist in crypto. I am not actually really a socialist. When it comes to being in crypto, I'm a socialist. When you're left,
I agree, and I'm on the same team as you. Everyone assumes from the fact that I believe in human rights and want
I'm vegetarian.
to create a safety net. Exactly.
May I ask a big question and open a can of worms?
Sure.
What's the relationship between what you might call sexual liberation and technology and like ledgers?
Yeah.
I mean, I think sex and ledgers. I mean, it reminds me of the worst idea, which is like Yelp for sexual partners.
Please.
It's the worst. Yeah. I mean, it's the best worst idea ever. Yelp for sex partners.
You're completely correct. Yeah. When I was talking about literally money of sex workers are deplatformed from bank accounts and pretty much any payment account. Since FOSTA SESTA that was pushed through that quote unquote cleaned up the internet. It's why you don't find prostitutes on Craigslist anymore or a lot of porn on Tumblr anymore. It was an American legislation that basically deplatformed sex work. And since most of the internet is based in the US, like most major platforms are based there, it impacted the world. It's now no longer safe or easy to really pursue self-employed sex work online. And to add insult to injury, it impacted these sorts of, like, there was pre-existing legislation shit that basically makes the whole KYC, know your customer element of having a bank account, setting things up, stuff like that. You can be denied, like payment platform providers have to be very careful that they're not enabling quote unquote like prostitution and stuff like that. And so it's just like zero tolerance. You're deplatformed from PayPal, things like that, if it appears that it's being used for sex work. So sex workers need cryptocurrency pretty much nobody else does in North America. Most people don't need it for anything but speculation, but sex workers actually do because banks won't, like, fucks with thems, so to speak.
Yeah. So,
but I do agree, never put
what's
sex
it
work
called?
on a blockchain. Holy crap, no.
Yeah, censorship resistance. Censorship resistance is pretty much the one thing that Bitcoin has given us through proof of work. That I know that I believe that the marijuana industry is still having issues with it too.
They are, yeah.
Which is crazy because it's legal in so many states now, but you still can't. Like, there's only certain banks that will do business with marijuana businesses, and that makes it really hard. And not only that, but it makes it really dangerous. So a lot of them are dealing with cash, so they get robbed all the time. And that's why they're always locked down. And yeah,
and that's the thing, is just like federal, like in the United States, federal drug law and state drug law are different. Similarly, banking and regulations around money and like the production of dollars and the Fed and stuff like that are this other non-defined arm with like global reaching consequence. You know, like the real power behind the US dollar is blood. It's the American military and its threat globally. That's how we keep people trading in the US dollar. It's horrifying. So I see Bitcoin as, I see that the promise was to dethrone that a little bit and like provide some balance, but it's just made assholes rich in a lot of ways. I still think that doesn't take away any of the good stuff about Bitcoin, but it's just like, wow, you can't see it through all the assholes of a bull run, like sitting around being smug about being rich.
Yeah.
I'm still sort of on when you said we can't put sex work on the blockchain. Because then I kept listening, and you remind me that all money is rooted in the threat of military violence. And it's like, well, if sex and war are the two great motivations of human beings, I wonder if somehow sex work on the blockchain, God, that's the worst idea ever now. But I think it's worth thinking through. Like, what if we built our civilization around romance and sex? Do you think we could get rid of the threat of war and actually replace our projection and channeling of our urges for connection or victory or whatever to somehow like safe sex that also like celebrates the sexual objects? Now, people.
Yeah. So this is a really exciting thread. This kind of parallels something I've been thinking on in terms of like, okay, so if modern Western civilization as we know it is built on very like masculine models of leadership and care and stuff like that, what might it be? Like maybe what decentralization needs after years of watching like anarchic hackerspaces it not work firsthand, and just like a couple people do all the unpaid, unappreciated labor, stuff like that. Like, what might some feminine models of collaboration and support do for decentralization, and especially in tech sectors that are dominated by masculinity? With what you're saying, it reminds me of like one of the people I find really interesting and engaging as a public figure on Twitter is Ayala Girl. And like, yeah, like others like that though, like that they're engaging this sort of, we don't often get to see women and femme people like just say what's on their mind in audacious ways, and kind of walk that line of like, am I an object or your intellectual equal? I think that's one of the things that's very confusing in performing, like being the girl in male spaces. Like at our hackerspace, they used to live in times when we'd have a lot of femme people around. Like sometimes the dudes would be like, "Oh, look how good we're doing." I'm like, "Are you congratulating yourselves for there being more of us?" What is
guys would, guys would.
But that's the thing is like maybe we can meld those social models, because I have found like. To be polite, I call it the engineering mindset rather than like boy thinking. But like, yeah, the engineering mindset gets shit done when you're building something. Like to not, as long as everyone can get rid of their ego, just like rapidly going at a problem is great. But then like a femme caretaking perspective is necessary for the long term in communities of like, is everyone at the table? Does everyone have what they need?
Tell me about
and it's like the point is to be at the table rather than to end it.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to. I mean, I feel like we need to like re-matriate, right?
Ooh,
re-matriate.
Nice.
That
yes.
is it's that kind of shit that gets me kicked out
of
that kind of shit that gets me kicked out of the Bitcoin clubs, though.
Same.
Wow, re-matriate. There's the title of the episode if we want it. Oh, damn, that's cool.
I don't know. I'm still liking sex and ledger.
No sex no sex work on the blockchain. That could be the new no sex in the champagne room.
On that point, so a really good rule of thumb. And this just kind of occurred to me. I think I'm gonna have to like reuse this as an educator in the space. A really good rule of thumb I would wager is only the actions of authorities, administrators, or those holding any sort of trust or power should be inscribed onto blockchains of any sort. Public people, like the data of masses of human beings should never be, there's no reason to include that on a blockchain.
Well, I feel like in a way it's too late for that, isn't it? I don't know, maybe not.
Oh, big time, but as a rule for like it's already happened, but as a rule to steer by for designers of systems and stuff like that.
Oh, right, yeah, I see.
Put this on is like, okay, is it like someone who knows they're in this system and is a user or like like a mod?
I flunked out of engineering school, and I remember when I was there, they this was in like 1998, and they were very specific that if you're going to write any program with any sort of quote unquote intelligence to it, it has to have an expiration date. Shit like that. We should have those rules for the blockchain, whatever it is. Like, you don't put that thing in a open public ledger that is going to exist forever. Yeah.
And you would be horrified at how many, like, first-year engineering grad students and stuff like that, like, have consults where they're like, this is the blockchain research idea I have that involves putting personally identifiable information on a blockchain.
We're going to put, dick pics on the blockchain. It's a Snapchat.
Well, hold on there. I didn't think I could think of an exception. But
I mean,
Never mind, I retract.
I think anytime you make a file... And I'll go so far as to say, anytime you make a sound, anytime you do anything, at least for me, it's helpful to think that it's going to be saved and maybe posted somewhere forever. Mm-hmm. Now, to me, that's a good forcing function to be a good person, because each little action does echo in eternity. And I would even say that the mass of atoms is actually the computer and actually the blockchain we should be concerned about. And it's like, it remembers. Like, you really can't lie to the world. Like, I really can't lie to my body. I really can't lie to the earth. And I can't keep a secret from it. If I do it, the world remembers. I think computers may be just our way of trying to have an accounting system for what is true about things.
Well, that might be true, but people, that's something that people don't use computers for. That's just what they do. I mean, like, when you look at like the most successful businesses of the last 20 years are the ones that collected all the information, and you're like what? They built buildings. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, I still wonder what Facebook is really good for. I mean, I don't know why it's more than 15 people. I mean, it's just like a big scroll to write stuff on. And it's a way of dividing up, well, here's how to look at scrolls. It's a group, or it's a feed, or it's a profile. I don't know. I feel like I could write that code in 50 lines.
The beginning of you saying that made me really wish that podcast setups were like shock jock setups. So they could dropped in war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Exactly.
Good God. Well, we got post-production.
Yeah.
We could turn this into a thing that we sample and pick apart and zoom in on.
Yeah, there's no actual well, I mean, there's laws against that, but But I was going to say no one would enforce them.
Yeah. But
That podcast world is so unenforced when it comes to reusing media. Yeah.
that's comforting.
Well, it's weird. It's like we still have these old.
Who's going to sue?
Well, we still have these
God,
old ways of
yeah,
thinking about
copyright's
intellectual
fascinating.
property, right? We have these super old ways, and it's one of those things that NFTs kind of like throws a little wrench into the whole machine. But like, we're still thinking about art and music in terms of what it has been written and recorded and all this stuff, and it's like, oh man, we're gonna have a much bigger. I mean, like, what's the difference between a recorded album and a podcast? Really, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no different. They're both published audio. Well, speaking of published audio, we should get back to the audio that you are going to publish.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. This has been this album. I got so busy with being a Bitcoin and decentralization educator that I took 4 years to finish this 13-track LP. It's about to be the anniversary. I think I'm going to finish all the vocal stems probably right around when I wrote the first and titular track, Crypto Chronic. And I wrote that while I was running my first crypto conference in Tel Aviv. And I was just so panicked that I just for some reason, I just come up with rhymes a lot more if I have a deadline for something else going on. Like, I'm just like, oh, boom, right side of my brain,
Yeah,
right side
of course.
of my brain. Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool that you call it an LP, by the way. It's cool for one that you're putting out a full length, which no one puts out full lengths anymore. So it seems.
Yeah,
and that you
found
called
that
it an
after.
LP, a long playing record.
Yeah, indeed. I'm showing my age here. I'm showing my hand. Well, also, I'm in
classy.
the very unique position of when I was a teenage girl, I was super into only music that, like, 40-year-old men were into, like improvisational jazz, noise, stuff like that. And now that I am approaching that age myself, I almost exclusively listen to teenage girl music. So, quite a flip-flop. In preparing for this album, I've been really inspired by a lot of like crazy, almost, there's a lot of Riot Girl influences happening in East Asian rap right now. Like, there's just obviously in the United States as well, there are amazing, powerful female rappers. So I just, like, as a person who has to kind of, you know, like I have to confront some degree of dysphoria and stuff in having a femme voice on, like, I have a more femme voice than I would prefer to. And my last record, I tried to deal with that by, like, oh, let's lay some distortion on that. And learning more about production, I'm like, oh, I now understand why we don't distort rap vocals specifically. Because my main feedback has been nobody can understand what the hell you're saying on this album. So I'm going to keep these ones clean and crisp. And there really is, like, this sort of, I guess I'm pouring all of my frustration as a queer femme person who's been in Bitcoin for 6 years now, just holding it in there, into this. And there's a lot of slam dunks and disses, but I framed it in this sci-fi rap opera context so that it's hopefully fun, even for people who don't, you know, look hungrily for Bitcoin puns in their daily life. So it's a lot of fun. I'm working with a team of artists right now, like friends of mine who do visual art. I feel lucky because of the bull run and stuff to be able to employ them for a couple solid weeks and just co-craft this, do visual inspo photo shoots. And so there's going to be a 6-page comic book to accompany it that is like the story TLDR'd. Yeah, and it's lots of fun. And then we're going to have tons of music videos as well. I've been advised to stagger those. Last time I made 9 music videos for a 9-song album all by myself in Linux and then dropped them all at once. And now I speak to people who know the music industry. So.
And what's the artist name that you go by? Is it
so it's been different in the past. I used to rap as Ms. GNU with the blessing of Richard Stallman of the GNU Public License. You know, like he's a Linux hero, folk hero. I realized I shouldn't name myself after other things, so I'm just rapping as Chisel now. Will be an MX appended but it's a silent MX. As you can imagine, chisel. Chisel is the name of a common household tool, so it's kind of hard to search.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be tough.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to hear you rap. You want to rap on our podcast?
Absolutely. Let me navigate, and I'm really glad we got into. I was like, yes, validated when we got into all the discourse about, Elon, our favorite buddy. Because the song is I decided to play. Like, I was like, I should rap the song I'm most hype about, and it's the most recent one I wrote, which is Fusk Musk. It was originally Fuck Musk, and then I was like, that's a little harsh. I used to be more focused on all ages rapping in my previous projects. It was more of like a Miss Frizzle thing. So I specifically did not curse, and I somehow still have an aversion to it.
Fusk sounds a little more vile anyway, whatever it means.
Good. I like that. Let me just see. I'm trying to find my beats. I guess I'll do it. I just have to pull the beat down really quick. Labyrinthine working documents for this. There. Maybe not. Oh, it's because I have 3 laptops that look very similar.
Now take your time. It's pretty easy for us to edit out silence.
Okay, good. That'll be better. Because this was the beat that. So what's fascinating about this, I had mentioned how my producer used human logic and his knowledge of like how all of the algorithms pull stuff down on Spotify especially to use in Fruity Loops specific things to throw it off, while to someone who likes Doom, I would say it's pretty instantly recognizable that it is his beat. But I'm keeping it as the loop. I think it makes a lot more sense. We did it on a Zoom call, and neither of us had never done that before. Which is very weird. It's like a 3-hour Zoom call.
Probably talk for an hour about how that works too, man.
Yeah. I have found it. Perfect. Okay, and again, this is like draft-ish, so it might change a little, but I'm pretty fucking happy with it.
Cool.
Drop in, if it's a loop. Okay. Cancelled by Bitcoiners 10 times over for my leftist ethics, maybe rage disorder. Itsy bitsy doll size, Danny McBride. See my righteous conviction, mistaken for pride. Read Mises and free air in the same sitting. Brace knuckles, grind teeth, it's a tight fitting. The gods tried to strike me down with internal strife. Turned to my studies like Nietzsche, it gave me life. Then Camus and Henry Miller baptized me. Be your own God, imagine Sisyphus happy. I'm wise enough to let my heroes go. Stoic as a monk, best icebox bro. Goodbye, DF dubs, closed clubs, butterflies. Former lies. Was I Schwenza or a flutter? Was I one thing or another? I'm sorry, did I fucking stutter? Gotta clarify now that we've zoomed past niche. Dogecoin spells community, ain't not getting rich. First Wall Street bets push things organically, but Musk barks orders, both markets panic see. A gross amount of power for one man to exploit when disrupting centralized manipulation of global finance was the whole fucking point. So I sneak into tech bro clubs like a Trojan horse, eagle eye on my drinks, got a horse laugh force, gathering intel to crush them, of course. 40+ hour mission. Then I crash in my room. Don't know how to be alone. Ever since we buried Doom. But every true bard's heart's already buried at sea. That's where words churn from to teach us how to be. Opportunists miss that shit. They're fixated on the fee. My cross-faded sneakers give my laces the trips while I churn obscure puns where Coco's over list. Go, wait, that one's been done before. Damn then. Why the smartest women always bell-jarred by dumb men? So there's cans in the ceiling, yellow wallpapers peeling, sickly color permeates my tunnel vision view. I got out at last, in spite of you. I've got out at last, in spite of you. Even women call wise and cynical as all hell. Get our heads stuffed in the oven just as well. Said I let my heroes go. Some I had to put down. Conceptually, maybe 40 feet underground. Potlatch on the pyre, watch it all burn. The only way conqueror brutes learn. Collaborating equitably with peers frees us. Speak over others, I don't care if you're a genius. Throwing around your net worth and network weight. Like a big gross wang. Tated booty tang. Unbrainwashed grime, see if she wants a bang. Final call cold, leave him Sturm und Drang. Show up with receipts like Azealia. Call it borderline harangue, like yes bitch you rang. And you did. The masses like to maintain figureheads, so they got someone to yell out once God is dead. Crypto markets drop like active shooter drills. With Papa Elon pay all the little plebes bills. Don't worry, boys. You still got Peterson, Rogan privilege. Charlatans to soothsay how you were each made in God's image. Crypto culture is a damn gross joke. Flip the stat script, so I only shout out femfolk by name. The rest of y'all dudes get alluded to at best case, seen about enough to know about your O-face. Of course you're not emotional. Rage is just logic. Society's conditioning. Trapped in a closet, gotta throw away the classic rap opera. Public figures are paper dolls, pasted over the macabre. Tawdry malarkey, darkly cruel. The tiny gotta cower. As long as predators rule. We're surrounded by monsters. They're driven by greed. You deserve each other and the looming stampede. We had a moment there where we could have designed what we need. And we could have all maybe been free. It might end up being more cheerful at the end than that. I'm not sure.
Wow. Nice.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so relevant to everything that we talked about today.
Right?
Wow.
I realized part of the way through I was holding my computer up by the part that has the speaker in it. So I was like, shit, that's probably warping the beat, but still.
It sounded, actually, I kind of liked the beat in the background, distant, tinny sound. I liked it.
Oh, dope. Yeah. And it's a spooky beat like that, like it has that kind of like ghostliness to it. So I'm glad it emphasized that, if nothing else.
Yeah.
See, those are lyrics I would like to read.
Yeah,
on
I was
a
about
page.
to say that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Happy to share, because they're taking down someone I find to be behaving very unethically. Like, literally, Dogecoin was the only coin we didn't have to worry about people running up the price of. That's
I
gone
know.
now. So sad.
I know. It was
that's
like
life.
it was like for so long. It was like, hey, yeah, Bitcoin is cool. Stay away from all the other garbage, but Dogecoin's all right. I know. Oh, yeah. Well, wow. Well, this has been an awesome conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's been a hugely fun chat.
Yeah, and so before we end, and we can talk a little bit longer. I do kind of want to know what you mentioned before we started recording, your plans this summer and what's going on with that. Why don't you talk a little bit more about that,
totally.
so anybody listening, what's up with that?
It's really exciting. I mean, sometimes things just fall together, One of the videographers that I am working with on some of the music videos we're planning, he is a cousin of my one of my best friends here in Vancouver and one of the artists on this project. He just so happens to be like second carpenter in charge at a massive, beautiful old music venue that is owned by a carpentry firm. And we are going to be shooting music videos there all summer. And I had like this ridiculous production schedule plan. You know, when you have to lock down specific dates with venues and stuff, everything becomes critical path. And instead, we're just like, everyone involved has been excited. I'm working with another director, the fellow who made all my beats. He goes by Wet Worker. He's directing the more goth final 3 music videos of the piece. And just everyone involved is like, yay, now we can like get together and iterate, and we can iterate in this big, spooky, beautiful building that we're going to shoot in and on, because there's like 3 levels of roof that we have access to as well. So wow. Wild summer ahead.
Where can people follow you online if they want to follow all these adventures?
I am probably most consistently loud on Twitter at Chisel Inc. CHISELINC. Yeah, everything else will always be kind of findable from there, because that's where I do my leftist Bitcoin loud person thing.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us. Great to hear you and hear your voice and get to know your mind. Tremendous fun.
Thanks. Yeah, same.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Well, let's wrap it up here, and then maybe in the future you'll come back and join us sometime when you've got another cool project to talk about.
Sweet. Totally. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Chelsea, why don't you stick around after I stop? So, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.